This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in places that could expose you to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, their US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
The Elder Wand, the Resurrection Stone, the Cloak of Invisibility. Together they make the Deathly Hallows. Together they make one Master of Death.
The last will and testament of Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore.
Do not pity the dead, Harry. Pity the living. And above all those who live without love.
Hey everyone, welcome to Hogwarts, a podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Hogwarts, a podcast. We are covering Chapter 13, The Muggle-Born Registration Commission. Long title. But this is a pretty beefy chapter. There's a lot to discuss here, and I'm lucky to have Julie with me.
Hi everybody.
We are going to get into pretty big chapter on everything going on inside the Ministry of Magic as our trio has infiltrated the Ministry. We do have a couple of shout-outs to give before we get into the chapter, though. We have AV, who left a comment on Chapter 10, Creature's Tale. AV says, I would agree that the locket could be a risky gift to give to Creature, but house elves seem to want to serve. Think of Dobby wanting to serve even after being freed. It almost seems that they typically don't want to go free, and wouldn't use that as an excuse to be freed. Except, Dobby was abused by the Malfoys, so much that he eagerly accepted the sock. What do you think about the whole locket and creature potential loophole?
I don't see the loophole. I'm sorry, I don't. I don't see jewelry as clothing. It's not something that's a necessity to put on your body in any climate. Like we were talking before we started recording about Hermione knitting mittens, but like if you are in the UK in colder weather, you need a mitten to cover your body. You never need a locket or earrings or a ring. So to me, I don't think that that's any type of risk.
So you don't think there's a gray area given that it's a wearable item that you're giving to a house elf?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I do like AV's point about the idea that it's in the nature of a house elf to serve.
Yeah.
So if it's not a very clearly given gift of a wearable item, then they automatically default to, well, no, I'm still in servitude.
Yeah, I do agree. I think that that could be where the loophole could be. Not that I agree with the loophole idea, but I do like AV's point of all house elves want to serve, except in the extreme cases where they've been like actually abused. But I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see the loophole.
Fair enough. So we get another comment from Riri, who left their comment on Half-Blood Prince, Chapter 29, The Phoenix Lament. Riri's comment is, I think the unforgivable curses would remain illegal because there are other ways to accomplish their intended outcomes.
Fair.
I disagree with Dan. Thank you, Riri.
Yeah.
Though, that Felix would be allowed because there are other factors outside of it saving a life. It can make a battle or other activities go your way.
So I think that they would all still be illegal.
Even Felix.
Even Felix. I think it would all remain illegal. That doesn't mean they wouldn't be used. It's war, and if times are desperate, like, that's not going to matter when it comes to the greater good. And I think this, at least our perceived good side, would hold off on doing any of those things until it was a backs against the wall time. But eventually you get to a point where you almost have to fight fire with fire.
I think in terms of battle, I think the killing curse will fly around very commonly. Mm-hmm. I think the Cruciatus curse will be used. I think it will be used. It might be frowned upon, but it probably would get used. The Imperious curse might be a no-no, though. It might be one of those things where it's just like taking away someone's like free will, though, might be like a different kind of rule of warfare, maybe. As far as the Felix part of this goes, I think if you're using it as its intended use, you can maybe get away with it, which is fine. However, like if you're using it for maybe an hour to go get maybe some piece of intel or something like that might be a little on the riskier side, okay. But for the entirety of a battle, it can get risky. Because if you're trying to depend on this for hours at a time, or even, some battles can go like a full day. If you're taking enough Felix to get through a full 24-hour day, you might run into the counter effects of Felix.
Yeah.
You might run into that other side of Felix where you can start having some unlucky things happen.
Which is probably why it's not necessarily being used or brought up. And I think it probably would more so get used for gathering intel or a very specific hit or something like that versus a all right, we know there's a showdown happening at noon, everybody drink up. But I don't know. I think that eventually the deeper you get into the war, the less the laws are going to matter.
What do you think happens if one side decides, hey, we're going to show down at noon, so we're going to load up on Felix? The other side, hey, we got a showdown at noon.
Everybody's just super lucky. Nothing actually
everything
happens.
Misses. Just everything misses
everyone. And then it wears off and they're all so tired that they just fall asleep in the field.
I like it. We hope you've answered. We hope we've answered your questions.
Welcome to the war room.
Yeah. If you would like to leave a comment on the episode on Spotify, you could also participate in the poll that's also there. You could also leave a comment on our Twitter or on our Instagram or on our YouTube. You could find all three of those by searching at Hogwarts a Pod. We really appreciate seeing all the comments and all the interactions. We've gotten a bunch lately, and I know some of that is my hot takes, but I love seeing all the comments come through. I really appreciate that interaction, so keep them coming.
Yes, and send us all of any funny Harry Potter related things on socials too. We love seeing them, and more than likely it'll show up if we've already seen it, and if we haven't, please add. Elizabeth and I kind of have a non-spoken about war about sending things. Mm-hmm. So anytime that I see something on Instagram, if I see that Elizabeth has liked it, I'm like, man, she beat me to it. And then I don't send it in. But
so Jen does a good job running the Instagram, and I feel bad for her some days because she just doesn't get it from you and Elizabeth. I send her stuff as well. So there's probably days where she gets inundated with probably 30 messages just from us, and I bet you a third of that is just copied stuff that's the same stuff.
Yeah, it's now why anytime before I send it, if I see that Elizabeth has liked it, I'm like, nope, don't send it in. Man, Elizabeth, you beat me to it.
Yep, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, Julie liked this. Oh, I don't have to send that then.
Yes. But if you don't see one of us liking it, because Jen also does a great job of making sure she likes anything that we're putting up on our story, please send it our way. We love being able to see all that stuff and all mutually get some joy and laughs out of.
Or if you put us in your story, we can also reshare that. That's happened a couple of times, and that's always makes us feel really, really good. So, we got a big chapter. A very, very big chapter. So, we are in the Ministry, and as things go with the trio, everything goes horribly, horribly wrong. And obviously the trio gets split up, and it's basically a search for, obviously the main goal is Umbridge and the locket. Umbridge is now off the table because she's away in the courtrooms, so Harry is left to search for the locket on his own. Ron is dealing with a rainy office, and Hermione is down with Umbridge in the courtrooms, and chaos ensues, and there might be a dramatic escape from the Ministry later on in this chapter. I know. So we start out, like I said, with Harry, Hermione, and Umbridge starting the chapter, and Hermione and Umbridge head to the courtrooms, and Harry's left with the Minister of Magic, who he's meeting for the first time, as Runcorn. We should reiterate that all three of them are still under Polyjuice Potion disguise. Mm-hmm. So Harry exits the lift, meets with the new minister, Pius, and Pius asks Runcorn, why are you down in the administrative part of the Ministry of Magic? And Harry says, well, I'm looking for Arthur Weasley.
Of all the names to say, Harry, like, come on. You couldn't think of one other person that works in the ministry to name off instead of a person that, like, you are most closely tied to at the ministry.
It's an interesting name because it obviously leaves for a very clear line of dialogue afterwards.
Yes.
I mean, it leads to Pius being like, oh, was he caught helping an undesirable? And Harry's like, oh, this could be bad. No. Nothing like that. I just need him for something else. Okay. I'm interested in what if he did use a different name? What if he says Kingsley's name? Mm-hmm. What's that line of dialogue like? Is Pius cooler with Kingsley? Is he still antagonistic? Because he's still a known member of the Order.
Yeah. But I mean, like, at least there's a little bit more degree of separation. Like, jumping ahead a little bit, but it's like, obviously they know that Arthur is well connected to Harry. So it just feels like a very, like, of all the people at the Ministry of Magic that you could have named off, of all of them, like, you pick the one person where they're probably like, hey, if we can find a way to arrest this guy,
yeah,
we've done major damage to the other side.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, Pius ultimately responds with, well, it's only a matter of time. Mm-hmm. Only a matter of time before you find that evidence there, Runcorn, so don't worry about it. We'll get him. Okay. So Harry immediately realizes that the plan they've concocted over the past month seems laughably childish.
Wow, shocking. Shocking.
He's realizing just how much the ministry has changed, how foreboding it is, and how just seemingly unbeatable it is right now.
Well, but they also made no contingency plan for if they got separated.
Yeah.
They went into this scenario and went, well, we're all going to be looking together. Fantastic. Like, there was no thought that crossed any of their minds that someone might come to them with a problem, or they might have a meeting, or they might have to go and be on site investigating something. I don't know, whatever they do at the ministry. But, like, nothing. There was no thought process of what happens if we happen to get split up.
Yep. And I brought this up on a different episode because it's a little odd to think that all of your goals would be just happily in the Ministry of Magic. So this line gets said, quote, it seemed most unlikely she'd keep her jewelry in her office, referring to Umbridge and the locket. And I made that point. I'm like, shouldn't you track down where Umbridge actually lives? Wouldn't that be a more obtainable objective?
I mean, I guess with going to the ministry, like, it's easier to get in and get around than
Maybe?
like, because otherwise you're just breaking into a person's home where they have neighbors and
I'm sure she has her home protected by some enchantments.
But like, wow, it's really unlikely that she'd have her jewelry just hanging out in her office.
Yeah.
I get that y'all are 17, but like,
so it's very most definitely not in her office. I think we're all agreed on that point. My question then becomes, okay, so your game plan then must have been to specifically corner Umbridge in a somehow quiet and deserted part of the Ministry of Magic, and then do what?
Yeah.
So
like, you're gonna go up to her, and I mean, like, listen, we find out later that she's wearing it, but like, what, you just kind of hope that you're gonna run into her and be like, hey, So I'm looking for something like really special for inspiration that, you know, is kind of like a necklace that, you know, has like an initial of a pureblood family. Like what?
I got it, Julie. I got it.
All right, let's go.
So at the beginning of this chapter, you get the scene where they're all together, right? Mm-hmm. And ultimately, Harry has a conversation about Arthur Weasley with Pius. What if Harry / Runcorn, right then and there, is like, oh, Dolores, I have information surrounding an undesirable for you. Do you mind if we go to your office very quickly and discuss it? It's a big name.
Bam.
And then you can get her alone in her office. She's not expecting anything because you look like Runcorn, so you can get a spell off in time. Mm-hmm. And boom, there it is. Right? Wouldn't that theoretically work? I mean, maybe Pius comes along. If it's a big name, then you got Pius that you got to worry about. But still, I would take Harry against Pius and Umbridge when they're not expecting anything.
Well, and it's like you also could have just
or and Hermione can go with, because Hermione's right there too. So, I mean, that might have been a potential
Especially
option.
since, like, Hermione is essentially, like, the court stenographer.
Yeah.
So, like, she can come with to take down Runcorn's testimony.
Yeah. Like, that, I get that they were completely taken off guard by the fact that the lift gates open and literally the two people are right there, but at least there's an option for you.
With how much they've all been through, they're real bad with thinking on their feet. You think they would get better at it.
Harry's really good. Like, we'll get to later in this chapter where he's excellent at it, but here, like, sometimes he misses in crucial situations.
No, I think Harry's just good at, like, triaging.
Oh, yeah. But,
he doesn't, react. He tries to...
Tomato on that. But,
he just tries to stop the bleeding. He doesn't save the arm. He tries to stop the bleeding.
So, as Harry is traversing his way through the hallways of this floor at the Ministry, he notes a large number of people making pamphlets. The pamphlets are entitled Mudbloods and the Dangers They Pose to a Peaceful Pureblood Society. Well, that's alarming. Mm-hmm. I know the order, and I know Harry made fun of the pamphlets that they made at the beginning of book 6 with the, like, how to protect yourself from Inferi. You know, whatever. And they kind of made fun of, like, okay, well, that's a pretty, like, basic way to protect yourself from an Inferi. But at least it's a positive thing where they're trying to help people. Yeah. This is discriminatory and hateful and dangerous.
And I personally love that they were pink and gold and roses.
Well, it is better to provide such a dark message in such a flamboyantly pink way.
Like, who gets that and doesn't laugh?
Yeah, you laugh until you read it, and then you're like, oh boy. Yeah. The assumption that these pamphlets are being written by Umbridge.
Why? There's no cats on them.
That is true. There are no
So
cats.
Why are we assuming it was her?
Maybe it's just like maybe her like logo is a cat, and there's just like a stamp at the, like the bottom.
Stamp at the bottom.
Maybe her seal is just a cat. I don't know. But he overhears a worker nearby who has a little bit of a little disagreement with another worker because she says some derogatory things. What was it? An old bat or something like that? And the coworker says, hey, you better be careful. She might have, ears around here.
A magical ear, too.
Yeah. And then Harry turns and sees Mad-Eye Moody's eye set in a door.
Oh, the rage.
Yeah, he's not happy.
I mean, I'm not happy. I agree with Harry for once.
Look at you.
I will say, though, I am shocked that Moody didn't have some type of, like, spell, enchantment, something to prevent someone else from using his eye, especially after Barty Crouch Jr.
Yeah, I think...
Like, it's so signature to him. No one looks at that and thinks it's anything else other than Mad-Eye Moody's eye. Why wouldn't you put some type of enchantment so that it can't be taken, you can't be impersonated again, or, you know, stuff like this doesn't happen. And also, do we ever find out how Umbridge got Mad Eye's
We don't.
Because that's my other question. How is she high enough ranking anywhere to get this?
Yeah. My assumption is that she did a similar thing as she did with Mundungus. She threatened it off someone or bought it off someone.
Yeah.
Either she bought it off one of the Death Eaters who were there
Yeah.
and probably searched the body, or literally someone like a Mundungus found it and she threatened it out of them.
Yeah.
Would be my bet. I mean, if you really want to go tinfoil hat theory, you could say she was one of the hooded figures on that night, but I can't see her on a broom. So, I mean, that's the one hang up that I have about it. I would love to say that she was there that night, but I just cannot see her in the air.
Wait, can we now just take a second of Umbridge being a Death Eater and telling Voldemort, like, listen, I can't do this black hooded cape thing. It's not my color.
The one in just bright pink. I wonder who that one is. Flying through that. Mad Eye Moody from a mile away is like, why is there pink in the sky? I'm going to assume she bought it off somebody or threatened it off somebody.
Or stole it from I would assume that the Ministry has like an evidence lockup.
Possibly. Still very brazen of her to put it front and center on a door in the Ministry of Magic. Considering one of their former employees, that's a part of them.
Yeah.
But anyway. So, we get, Harry gets up close.
The worst.
And we see Dolores Umbridge's office, senior undersecretary to the minister, also head of the Muggle-Born Registration Commission, confirming she is the one writing the pamphlets, if the pink did not convince you already. Stunning that Umbridge would be the head of such a, as I said earlier, discriminatory and hateful search.
She's a fine, upstanding witch.
Oh yeah, she's fantastic. So once in Umbridge's office, Harry makes to steal Moody's eye as the first thing he does. He rips it out of the wall.
I actually agree with this. This is one of his best dumb choices yet.
Yeah, so look, I'm not going to argue with him wanting to take the eye back, as, you know, because the idea of the eye being a trophy for Umbridge is a disgusting thought.
Yeah.
No problems there. It does potentially leave an opening for people to notice, hey, something's different. Mm-hmm. That eye that clearly everybody knows about and everybody's fearful of, they're going to notice that it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
It's such a shocking feature anyway.
Yes.
Anyway, it's a shocking feature. But to have specifically in the front center of a door, it's hard to miss.
But, I mean, still, that's best dumb decision yet. I'm here. Oh, we should also mention Harry is currently under an invisibility cloak.
Yeah, he almost forgets that, though, and just starts walking completely towards the door.
Yes.
As if he wasn't under the invisibility cloak, because he's so enraged by this, as he should be. Mm-hmm. So, once inside the office, he does begin to search. Accio did not work. However, while rifling through some of the cabinets, he did find, and this is a great detail that I love, some enchanted paper clips that are coiled like snakes and had to be beaten back.
I mean, of course, Umbridge of all people would have them, but, like, they're paper clips. Why?
Where do you get these? Is this, like, the Staples of Nocturne Alley?
I hope it's just a regular Staples.
Is this the Office Depot?
Okay, but wait. Think about being, like, a teacher. Your school supplies get taken all the time. A kid has to borrow a pencil, and you give them a pencil, and then you never get it back. So maybe it's just at regular Staples. So they have, like, paper clips, and they're like, you will not steal my paper clips.
Maybe. Oh, that stapler must be violent then.
Right? Also, why do you need paper clips in the wizarding world? Is there not a spell for that?
Yeah, can't you magically, like, seal the corner or something like that? I don't know. But I just love the idea that not only are they, like, coiled like snakes, they had to be beaten back. So not only are they enchanted paper clips, they're aggressive enchanted paper clips.
Amazing.
Which is fantastic. Anyway, Harry does come upon a file. He comes across Arthur Weasley's file. The file says, Arthur Weasley, pureblood, but muggle leanings.
Oh, shocker.
Known Order of the Phoenix member. Wife, also pureblood. Youngest son, at home, ill, confirmed. He is being tracked currently as undesirable number 1, may contact.
I am actually shocked that Harry didn't steal any files while he was in there.
I mean, you stole the eye, you might as well.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
You stole the eye, they're already going to know things were taken. I mean, I guess a case could be made for the fact that, like, Umbridge probably knows who has files, so if you see only Arthur Weasley's file gone, you're going to then
You'd also target
frame
Arthur as... Yeah.
But I'm surprised you didn't just go through and, like, pull out order members or, like, hell, just pull out a stack of, like, 30 files and burn them.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, though, because, again, and, you know, we'll see this a little later, so, you know, I'll make this point again, but Arthur being pureblood and Molly being pureblood really put them in a little bit of a privileged state, almost. Obviously, they're still being tracked.
Yeah.
But they're able to get away with a little bit more than the average witch or wizard.
Because I was thinking about it, too, with, like, the whole pamphlet thing, like... You're talking about mudblood and the dangers they pose to a peaceful pureblood society, but we've heard about it time and time again throughout the books that, like, purebloods are a, like, dying breed, so to speak. There's not that many strictly pureblood families anymore. Mm-hmm. So, like, for the Weasleys, you almost have to let them go. Because what are you going to do? They're probably, like, the largest pureblood family with all of the kids. So, like... What are you going to do? Get rid of that entire line of purebloods, and now there's, 7 pureblood families that each have... Like, look at the Malfoys. It's only Draco. Mm-hmm. So, like, if anything, if you're going to target anyone, makes more sense to target them that has one kid.
So wait a second. If we play this out, where this is at now, the Voldy has control of the Ministry of Magic. He essentially has control of the entire country. If things keep progressing as they are at this point, mm-hmm. Do you see a point in time where Voldy's like, you know what? We need more purebloods. We need to grow our pureblood ranks. Draco, I have another job for you. You need to marry Ginny Weasley.
I think it would turn into, like, arranged marriages.
Could you imagine that?
That
Lucius would he'd throw a fit in his mind because he couldn't throw a fit because he'd just be killed.
Yeah.
But that'd be like, oh my goodness.
But I think that eventually it would have to get to that point that after you've, proven who all of the purebloods are, that you would have to start having, like, arranged marriages to make sure that you keep the pureblood families alive.
And then I guess you'd have to get into, like, okay, of the half-bloods, who's got the richest family lineage that we can pull from?
Nope, I think that they would...
You think they'd even go further and eliminate the half-bloods too?
I don't think they would eliminate the half-bloods, but I think that they would put out some type of decree, mandate, law, whatever, of purebloods have to marry, reproduce, whatever, with other purebloods to help strengthen the line.
Okay. Part of the reason Harry might not be able to get all of those files is he gets walked in on by Pius. Pius needs to write a note to Dolores, and he walks in, and he happened to be turned facing the other way. We did forget to say that Harry released a decoy detonator to get into the office unseen. Mm-hmm. So people are kind of rummaging around this decoy detonator, and Pius is focused on that as he walks into the room, so Harry's able to throw on the cloak real quick. He did notice that there was a poster with his face on it that said undesirable number 1, and there was a little note attached to that.
On a pink post-it note.
Of course.
With a little cat.
Of course. And it said, to be punished.
Give it a rest, lady. Give it a rest.
Hey, she's consistent.
Like, girl, you are now a high-ranking ministry official again. Like, of all the people that they're going to turn Harry Potter over to, it's not going to be you. Even though you're the worst. You are worse than Voldemort. I stand by that.
Can you imagine her trying to be like, hey,
he's mine.
Mr. Voldy, sir, could I actually get this one?
No, it would just be like, that undesirable is mine.
Do you think she would have to do the punishing, or do you think she'd be okay with Voldy?
No, she has to do it.
Yeah, that's what I figured too.
She has to be the one to do it. We also didn't mention that Harry thinks he sees Dumbledore in Umbridge's office. And he looks over to see that it's actually Dumbledore on the cover of Rita Skeeter's lovely book about him. Mm-hmm. And he kind of rummages through the book and finds a picture of Dumbledore with another young man, because it's when Dumbledore's younger, that has blonde curly hair. And Harry's trying to figure out who it is that's in this picture with him and doesn't have time to read the caption below the picture, and that's when Pius walks in.
He assumes it's a young Elpheus.
Yes.
But he's unsure. So, ultimately, Harry does escape from this office, and he meets up again with a soaking wet Reg Cattermole / Ron. And they meet in this lift, and they're about to try to figure out what to do next, except the lift opens again, and it's Arthur who walks in. And he's having a conversation with another wizard. He looks at Runcorn with
disdain,
a little bit of spiciness to it, let's say, and looks at Ron with a little bit more empathy, and offers up a Mediolojinx Recanto to fix the reigning room. Which I feel like this is like Ron goes, "Thanks, Arthur." Solid. But I feel like this is one of those examples where even Hermione, you realize they're still kids.
Yeah.
Like, they're still in school, they're still kids. They don't have a grasp of real adult magic yet.
Yeah.
And, like, Hermione offered 2 very simple, like, spells that you could probably learn before your 4th year at Hogwarts. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, Arthur comes in with this spell you never heard of before. It's complicated to even say. Like, just mind blown. And Ron's like, okay.
Also, like, how many... Because anytime we see classes at Hogwarts, it's like, 3 weeks on one charm, curse, transfiguration. Like, how much real-world learning happens after they leave Hogwarts? Because you hear, like, all of these things that, like, the adult wizards are doing out in the world, and you're like, I get that it's not like we're getting a full breakdown of what's happening at Hogwarts, but, like... Where did Arthur learn this one? Was it just like you were reading a book and you're like, wow, that sounds cool, let's try it?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we ever get, like, Arthur taking, like, Newt level charms courses, or, we've kind of broached on the subject of, like, wizarding grad school in terms of at least Aurors, because we know they go through extra training.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we don't really know other than that. I guess it's more on the job stuff. And maybe Arthur's learned that kind of jinx because there's been some atmospheric shenanigans going on with Muggle artifacts. I don't know. But still, it's an interesting kind of jinx to just throw out there and be like, oh, that's a thing. Sounds impressive. So Ron hurries out to try to fix it. Which I also, like, why are you in such a hurry to fix this? Like, I know you're in the place of Reg. And I know you've now learned that Reg's wife is being questioned in the courtrooms, and how you do on this room could impact her well-being.
Yeah.
So there is that, but I don't know. I feel like there's more ways to get a job done, and maybe this isn't the the most. Yeah. But anyway, we're not done with entrance into this lift.
And this elevator is like Grey's Anatomy level elevators.
There's a lot of drama.
For anyone who watches Grey's Anatomy. If there's people in an elevator...
You don't think there could be so much drama in just one lift ride?
Correct.
But you could cut it with a knife.
Like,
the tension.
This elevator is Grey's Anatomy level drama.
Of all people to enter this lift, Percy enters. And he's busy, so he doesn't immediately notice that his father is in the same lift. Finally notices and immediately exits.
As soon as he can.
The next stop, he's like, I'm gone.
Also, does no one push buttons in these lifts? I feel like it's stopping at every floor when I read this chapter.
I feel like it does, yeah. So that leaves Arthur and Runcorn in the lift, and Harry also tries to leave with Percy, but Arthur blocks his way. And Arthur essentially threatens Runcorn by saying, Cresswell is 10 times the wizard you are, and you, Runcorn, will have to answer for your actions. What my comment was earlier about Arthur being pureblood and his wife being pureblood. Mm-hmm. This is a comment he feels safe enough to make.
That was my thing. Is like, that is such a bold move to threaten someone that you know is investigating people's, like, lineage.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm not saying that magically they're going to be like, oh, the Weasleys aren't pureblood. But, I mean, like, they could find something else.
Yeah.
But I thought this was such a bold move, especially from Arthur.
You don't see this side of Arthur very often. I think Arthur is doing two things with this. I mean, one, he's very confident in his blood lineage.
Yeah.
To say this. And two, I think for the first time really, and Harry for sure is seeing this for the first time, you're seeing a confident in his magical abilities version of Arthur, where he's stepping out and being like, if you're going to attack me, I could roll with that too. If you want to go that route, I have no problems doing that. And then you're seeing, like, not Arthur Weasley, the happy, father of 7.
Yeah.
Who's like, bumbling with his, little trinkets and toys from the Muggle world and blah, 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 blah. Now you're seeing Order of the Phoenix member Arthur Weasley, who's like, I will throw down if I need to.
Which, like, think about how low-key terrifying that also must be for Harry. Because it's not like he's seen that version. And
he's already seen how people react to Runcorn.
Yeah.
Being like, oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Runcorn. Oh, like, I'm sorry, I'll get out of your way, blah, 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 blah. And now you have Arthur being like, I am stopping you now.
Yeah.
Like, now you are talking with me.
Especially since Runcorn is also described as being very large. Like, there's a comment of Harry saying that he needed to, like, stoop down in the invisibility cloak so that his feet wouldn't show. Mm-hmm. So when you're thinking of someone who is physically large and also their aura and reputation is also very menacing.
Well, and then Harry responds with, Arthur, you're being tracked.
Which then Arthur takes as a threat.
As he probably should.
But also this is where, like, it seems weird to me that before the trio left, there wasn't some type of code word, code question, code something that if someone was undercover, that you could, like...
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. It's still risky, though.
But, like, imagine if, like, this would be a terrible code word, but imagine if Harry was like, Rubber ducky, you're being tracked.
Rubber ducky?
Because Arthur asked the purpose of
rubber ducky. No, I get it. It's just rubber ducky.
That's why I said it'd be a terrible code word. But, like, you know what I mean? Like, some type of something so that Arthur realizes that, like, it's a friend telling him you're being tracked versus a potential threat.
It's an interesting interaction because Harry says you're being tracked. Arthur responds with, is that a threat? And Harry responds very quickly, and I assume a little on the authoritative side with, it's a fact.
Yeah.
And then just ends it there.
Like, they should all know that they're being tracked and monitored.
That's essentially what Arthur tells them the first night they're in Grimmauld Place.
Yeah.
Is, hey, we're all being watched.
Yes.
So, I mean, they're well aware. I think Arthur's a little ready for a fight, though. I think he's a little chippy.
Yeah, let's go.
So,
Man, the Weasleys in this book are just something else.
Feisty. No, I like the scene from Arthur a lot, actually. I'm like, oh, okay, Arthur has a little fight to him. This is good. Anyway, so Harry's like, great. I had Ron, now I don't have Ron. Arthur's mad at me, even though he's not mad at me. But now I gotta go find Hermione, who has the actual target of this whole thing sitting next to her in the courtrooms. I gotta go get Hermione. So he makes to the courtrooms. As he gets nearer to the courtrooms, he notices the presence of Dementors. The Dementors are present as people are... the people that are going to be questioned are waiting in the hallway. So Dementors floating down the center of the hallway, and people are sitting on the sides or laying down or sitting on the floor or whatever have you. And you just get this feeling of dread and despair and hopelessness.
And cold.
Before you're going to go into a questioning.
And after, for most of them, their wands have been taken.
Yeah, at least half of them have had their wand. At least half of the people in that hallway have had their wands taken. Some of the people have their family with them. Some are completely alone.
Yeah.
Which, if you have your family with you, that at least gives you maybe some shred of hope. The people that are alone, though,
yeah,
that must be brutal. And, I put down it, so from whichever point of view you're looking at, I suppose, it's either a truly ingenious tactic or it's a truly horrific tactic. I mean, it's a horrific tactic either way.
It's both, because you already have this group of people who are being targeted, who have magical abilities, who are witches or wizards. They're just not pure blood. And you're rounding them up for questioning. You've taken away their magical ability, essentially. And then you throw them with Death Eaters to wear them down even more before you drag them into questioning, where, like, you're essentially beating them up mentally and then putting them in for questioning, because by the time you do that, they're more likely to just agree with whatever you're saying.
Yeah. It's an awful position that you're putting people into, and you're putting them into the situation where they've already lost. I mean, generally, they've already lost before. If you're even here, you've lost.
And even those that have family with them, you're putting the family around the Dementors, so there's no one who can fight back on your behalf.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we learned back in book 3 how hard it is to produce a Patronus, which is the only thing that you can really do against Dementors. So when it's already a challenging spell to perform, then you add the duress and mental strain that happened before you even got there, and it's not like they sent a notice and they go, by the way, enjoy the Dementors in our waiting room.
That's a wonderful surprise to walk into.
Yeah.
So Arthur, when he mentioned Dirk Cresswell to Harry/Runcorn, he mentioned, like, if Dirk should survive Azkaban, he'll come for you.
Yeah.
And so the implication there is all of these people, if they are so indeed found guilty of, quote-unquote, stealing magical power from a witch or a wizard, which is what they're essentially going to trial for, the implication is they're headed to Azkaban, which is a dark outlook, and that not many can really survive. And
again, Umbridge is the most horrendous villain in this series.
It's a pretty awful circumstance as Harry walks into this hallway, and it just gets more horrific because as he's walking through the hallway, a courtroom bursts open with screams of a man claiming he's half-blood. His father is Archie Alderton, who's a broomstick designer, and they're not hearing it. And Umbridge says that any struggle will be met with the Dementor's kiss.
Jeez.
So, Azkaban or a soulless rest of your existence? One or the other. It's fine. But on that happy note, Umbridge calls one Mary Cattermole. And Harry decides that he is under the cloak, by the way. We should make that very clear. He's under the invisibility cloak. He put the cloak on as he left the lift into the atrium. Harry follows Mary Cattermole inside the courtroom because he can't let someone face that alone.
Without any sort of a plan is an actual quote for Harry's plan. Without any sort of a plan, which is Harry's MO. I will, like...
Yeah, but this
I commend him for...
This one's out of his heart, though.
Yeah.
I mean, this shows who Harry is,
yeah.
where he's like, I don't know what I'm going to do here. I have nothing, but I can't let this person face this horrific scene by themselves. It's every now and then you get like marks as to what does make Harry different from, let's say, a Voldy or a Bellatrix, or just anybody generally else. Because I don't know if there are other characters his age at Hogwarts that would make necessarily the same decision.
Yeah. Well, Harry also has a lot more experience with Dementors, which I think kind of also changes things a little bit. I'm not saying that he wouldn't have done the same thing if he didn't have that experience, but most of the students his age, I think, would have seen them, remembered when the Dementors were at Hogwarts, and been like, that sucks, bye.
Well, and I mean, he's got so much here. He's got the history with the Dementors. He's got the history with Umbridge. He's got the history with the Ministry. He's got the history with being in a courtroom alone, essentially, because he had to walk in alone. Albus was there in there already, which is a scary, intimidating thing, and that's all of this, really, is they're trying to scare you, they're trying to intimidate you, they're trying to defeat you before you even say a word, before they even say a word. And he's just like, I can't let someone go through this alone. It's a really great sentiment from Harry. That being said, the room itself felt like being at the bottom of a deep well. Which also is that kind of, I can't escape this kind of feeling. There are more Dementors inside.
Yeah, which said that was for the accused to feel, not the accusers. I thought that was such a well-written line by J.K. Rowling that I feel like a lot of times when we give compliments to her writing, it's more so the breadcrumbs that she leaves throughout the series. But I felt like that line in particular was the, like, stab you in the heart, realize what's actually going on here. And, like, actually makes you feel the oppression that's happening in this courtroom.
So there is a cat patronus, specifically, protecting the prosecutors from the Dementors' effects.
I'm so angry.
It's just patrolling in front of the prosecutors.
Reasons I'm so angry about that. Because obviously it's a cat patronus, and we know that Umbridge loves cats, and I am outraged.
The question becomes, what in Umbridge's personality then produces a cat? Or what cat-like behavior does she
toying with
embody?
Her prey.
Possibly. She's always on the hunt for something.
Yeah.
Maybe a loner. Cats can be survivors.
I'm still angry about it.
I don't know. It does beg the question, like, okay, if her Patronus is a cat, and Patronuses do tend, like, for example, Tonks and her Patronus, being like one thing, and then it, like, as she's in love with Lupin, it morphs into more of a wolf-like creature. Yeah. So it does embody something about you.
Yeah.
What about a cat, or what about, Umbridge?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing would probably be the, like, a cat toying with its prey, because, like, that's what Umbridge does. When she punishes someone, she doesn't just, slap them in a detention. She makes them write with a quill that cuts into their hands. But I'm still salty about it.
Fret not. We're not done with her Patronus just yet, because there's another interesting point about her Patronus later. Mary Cattermole, however, is now sitting in the center of this room, chained to the chair. And
which, over the top, by the way, there's already Dementor. Like, what?
Do you remember, like, back when Harry was in this similar type of room, he did see the chains on the chair, and he thought they were going to, bound him to the chair?
Yeah.
It did not end up happening for him.
Yeah, but it's like, what is Mary Cattermole gonna do? She doesn't have a wand. There's Dementors all around her. There's a ton of people in the hallway. Like,
it's like one on. They're just stacking the intimidation and the fear on top of each other. This is like on a scale of 1 to 10, this is already at like a 15.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're just stacking at this point. Also, to not help Mary Cattermole's case, she doesn't know where her husband is and says her kids think she might not come home.
To which Yaxley says, the brats of mudbloods do not stir our sympathies.
Julie, I'm going to put you on the spot here. You're our mother.
Yes.
If you were in a situation where you were detained, and you were taken away from your kids, and the last thing your kids said to you as you were being carried out or as you left the house were, like, are we going to ever see you again? They, like, genuinely had a concern about whether they were going to see you again. And you knew that concern might be valid. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a horrifying thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's a terrifyingly, emotionally crippling thing to have to deal with. Mm-hmm. The next question is, okay, if I'm being taken away, what does happen to my kids? Who are they being left with? Is there a relative even watching them right now? Like, what's going on with them? She doesn't know where her husband Reg is.
Yeah, well, and it also makes you wonder, like, if you're Mary, are you sitting there going, like, well, Reg isn't down here with me. Does that mean that he's abandoning me? Is he trying to distance himself so that, like, him and the kids stay safe? Like,
well, I'm sure that's a thought because of all the Dementors.
Yeah.
They play up all those insecurities and stuff, yeah. Yeah. Terrible, right? God. Yeah, it just gets worse and worse. As Umbridge and Yaxley continue to taunt and frighten Mary, Harry does notice the locket dangling from Umbridge's neck. Hermione also notices this detail as she's sitting right next to Umbridge. And Hermione, as clever as she is, decides to compliment the locket. And Umbridge says it's an old family heirloom. The S stands for Selwyn. She's related to the Selwyns.
I desperately, with every fiber of my being, want Dolores Umbridge to not be a pureblood. Because she makes a comment after saying she's related to the Selwyns. She's like, I'm actually related to most of the pureblood families. And so it's like, I really hope that it's like a masking technique where she's like, well, of course I'm related to all of them. You can't find any dirt in my blood, when in reality, like, you know, her great uncle.
I just love the bragging about inbreeding then at that point.
Yeah. It also begs the question of, has Umbridge always felt this way, or is it, this is the regime that's in power and what they want, and so she's so power hungry that she follows that?
So here's the interesting thing about this S for the Selwyns thing.
Yes.
So obviously the Selwyns are a noted pureblood family. I believe one of the Selwyns was like one of Voldy's first Death Eaters. Mm-hmm. They're noted. They're very big Slytherin supporters, pureblood all the way, blah, 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 blah. Selwyns are big time pureblood family. Great. The S for the Selwyns. Here's the thing about that. I feel like if you're a true pureblood, if you know anything about, or if you're just a Slytherin, she is a Slytherin.
Yeah.
If you know anything about Slytherin, you should recognize the S Slytherin logo of Salazar Slytherin, yeah?
You would think.
So, is she seeing this heirloom, seeing this locket, and she recognizes, like, okay, I think this might belong to Slytherin. She recognized, I think, the importance and the value of it when she saw it in Mundungus's possession. I personally think she recognized it as Slytherin's. But she knows that lineage can be tracked, and she might not be able to pull off that lie of like, oh, I'm Slytherin's heir. So she comes up with, oh, the S is for Selwyn.
Yeah, I mean, I think she probably, I don't know that she necessarily knew that it was Slytherin's, like Salazar Slytherin's. I think she saw it as like Slytherin as in the house.
Oh, maybe.
Because otherwise I feel like it's very easy to say, like, even if you're not using it for lineage to Slytherin, you can still use it as I'm important enough that I have an actual heirloom of
It's a
Salazar
dangerous game to
Slytherin.
play. Because it's like, if you are... Voldy's out now.
Yeah.
Everybody knows he is an entity that must be reckoned with. So if she's out there saying, oh, I have Slytherin's locket, I'm a descendant of Slytherin, well, that's going to get up the chain, and Voldy's going to be like, I'm sorry, who are you, and why are you saying this?
I'm not even saying that she would say she's a descendant of Slytherin. I'm just saying that she would say she's important enough that she owns an heirloom of the Slytherin line.
But even that can get dicey, given the man on top.
Well, yeah. But I think that's why I asked the question of, do we think that Umbridge has always had these feelings towards Muggle-Borns and blood purity, or is it the new regime at the Ministry is pushing this and she's like, I can do this, let's sign up, because she has no soul. So she's fine with, people getting thrown in Azkaban, and she enjoys the, like, punishment component of it. Mm-hmm. Like, if Dumbledore became Minister of Magic, would she be more sunshine and rainbows? Like, actual sunshine and rainbows? Well, if it meant that she would go farther up in the chain of command?
So, when we first meet Umbridge, and everything she's doing is with Fudge as the Minister of Magic, she's not like this. She's that sickly sweet persona that everybody assumes, at least that cares, everybody assumes it's fake. Mm-hmm. So that's the persona she puts on when she knows this type of behavior that we're seeing in this courtroom is not the standard.
Yeah.
So she does change a little bit. I don't think Dumbledore would be like, I think he would be able to see through the fakeness.
Yeah.
But
if she's trying to make her, like, she clearly craves power.
Sure.
Because even when she's even flashing back to the quill that cuts into the hand, like, that is because you're asserting your dominance, you're asserting your power.
Whatever the darkest side of ambition can be is hers.
Yes. Yeah. I know we were joking about Umbridge being a Death Eater, but is Umbridge a Death Eater?
Yeah.
Because it seems weird that you would be this high up in this, like, pyramid scheme here and
not be?
And not be. That you would be given this much control of a section of the Ministry. Like, I don't buy that Voldemort's like, yeah, let her go ahead and run all of that, but let's not have her join the club.
Well, so if we're talking about the Death Eater Club specifically, I think he keeps that a relatively tight-knit circle. I think he only has maybe, let's say, 12 to 24. Like, I think that's a relatively tight...
Yeah.
Because Pius, the Minister of Magic, isn't. He's Imperiist.
Yeah.
So, like, I think he recruits people, but to get that dark mark on your arm, you have to go through some stuff to earn that. I'm not saying she couldn't, and I'm sure she wants it. But I don't know. I don't know that he just gives that out so willingly.
You know what I mean? Like, does she want to be a Death Eater, or does she not care? As long as she's a high-ranking official and can show people she's a high-ranking official, like, does she care at all, like, what she's enforcing?
I agree with the thought that Umbridge, I think, just wants power. So now her position at the Ministry gives her that. I think she's okay with just the Ministry power. She doesn't need the Dark Mark, per se. And she doesn't need to be close to Voldy himself. She's got the Ministry. It just so happens that this iteration of the Ministry of Magic aligns with her personal views.
Yeah. If she even realizes that Voldemort's, like, in charge of the Ministry.
I'm pretty sure everybody pretty much knows that.
Well, I mean, but, like, you know what I'm saying, though?
Yeah.
Like, does she even care? Because she was awful when Fudge was in charge. So
does she know that Pius is imperious?
And, like, does she care outside of the Ministry?
Does she know that Yaxley is a Death Eater?
Because it's like, does she care about anything outside of the Ministry? Is her only thing that she wants is power within the Ministry because that's the only place she perceives power? Mm-hmm. Wow. After we finish the books, we should do a whole episode on Umbridge. I'm into this.
Umbridge is... I will give JK a lot of credit because almost every character that gets a lot of play has a lot of depth to them.
Yeah.
Like a lot of depth. Even Umbridge. That being said, Harry doesn't want to hear any of that. He is so livid at Umbridge for all the lies and all the hate she is spewing at Mary right now that he just out of nowhere, again, with no thought to implications of what happens after. And you know what? I don't blame him one bit for this either. He stupefies Umbridge. And then Yaxley is so confused. He's like, what is happening? And then hits Yaxley. And again, look, does it cause a bunch of problems? Absolutely. Does it cause a lot of issues for Harry and Hermione? Absolutely. Do I blame him? Not one bit. Not one bit.
Okay.
You get a free shot at Umbridge, you're not going to take it? You would take it.
It's not really a free shot, though, because you also have Yaxley there. Like, you have all the Dementors around, which, like, again, is a little bit of Harry's hubris, because I don't want to say he's comfortable around Dementors, but, like...
He's confident.
Yeah, he's confident that, like, they're not really a problem for him. Mm-hmm. You're also in the middle of the Ministry. You still have to leave.
Yeah, no, I totally get that there's a whole bunch of complications.
Classic Harry.
But, I mean, Julie, you're sitting next to this person who's spewing nonstop hate. You're not tempted a little bit to be like...
The thing that I will give to Harry is, like, you know what, at least you got the locket. Like, I just wish that there was a little bit of a thought of, like, you know... Well, we need to get the locket anyway, and I was so enraged that I just did it.
Yeah, I mean, he does ultimately accomplish his goal of getting the locket. So... chaos.
There's
a bunch of chaos. The Dementors, as Umbridge is now stunned, all the Dementors, her Patronus disappears. All of the Dementors then descend upon Mary Cattermole. He jumps down to defend her. Mm-hmm. And he casts his Patronus. And there's an interesting note here, Julie, because you have questioned his abilities from time to time.
Yes.
And the note on his ability to cast a Patronus is more powerful and more warming than Umbridge's. And obviously all the Dementors just immediately go back into the shadows of this courtroom.
Okay. Harry's a 3-trick pony. Are you happy now, Dan?
Yeah, well, that third trick is a heck of a trick. It's a big time trick.
Also, the thing that I find kind of interesting is with Umbridge's Patronus, it still has to be relatively powerful, which obviously she's getting joy and delight from torturing and demeaning all of these people who are coming into the courtroom.
I think with this Patronus, and in this particular circumstance, yes, she gleans happiness from making others uncomfortable or exerting her own power or what have you. But the interesting part is, in the magic of a Patronus, and happiness specifically, Harry's is more powerful and more warming than hers. Mm-hmm. So, and Lupin does tell us the memory matters.
Yeah.
And how strong this Patronus is. So does one gleaning happiness from negativity against one that gleans happiness from literal, actual happiness matter and make one stronger than the other? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think it also helps that with how much tragedy and trauma that Harry's had in his life, his happy memories have so much more impact. Brightness that literally I think it could be like, you know, they have pumpkin waffles today. This is amazing. Like, I feel like that would be a better, like, happy memory for Harry to use for a Patronus than, like, someone else have it. You know what I mean? Like, Harry's gone through so much negativity.
The first great feast at Hogwarts might be more impactful for Harry than, like, Seamus Finnegan or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, I get you. No, I mean, that makes... So, there's a couple of reasons why. I mean, Harry's particularly adept at this spell. And then we can glean all the different reasons, like you just said. Mm-hmm. Or the fact that the memory, one's based in torture and the other one's based in actual true happiness. Yeah. So, he's like, hey, Hermione, I need your help. And she's like, hold on. I need to duplicate this locket so she doesn't know it's gone.
I take her point, but also, like, you guys just stunned them in the middle of a court proceeding. Like, they already know that there's something happening.
Theft is, like, the least of your worries. I get where you're coming from, because what does it really matter?
Yeah.
Like, are you going to see Umbridge again? Is this going to be, like, a thing? Hopefully not. Your plan is not. So, does it really matter? I don't know. Also, can we just stop for a second and be like, you had a free shot on your, like, your second arch nemesis, I guess. Voldy has to be your arch nemesis. But, like, your second arch nemesis in Umbridge. And, like, I think from all accounts, considering he's essentially running the Ministry of Magic, one of the top Death Eaters.
Yeah.
In Yaxley. You have a free shot at both. And you stun them.
I mean, I have zero expectations of the trio whipping out a killing curse or anything. But, like, you know, maybe stun them and kick them off the pedestal so that they get a concussion?
I don't know. I know we've had some interesting thoughts about Lupin here recently, given his thoughts on Tonks and thoughts about his own kid that we've had. But I think if Lupin were here, he'd be like, Harry, you've got a shot to knock off a top Death Eater general and this woman who is, if not Voldy, the embodiment of evil.
Yeah, no, I think
Lupin would go for a kill shot.
Not with Umbridge.
Okay, maybe not with Umbridge, because he doesn't have the personal animosity.
With Yaxley.
Yaxley, he would.
I think so, because Yaxley is also kind of getting back to what we were talking about in the beginning of if the unforgivable curses are legal or illegal during acts of war. I think, like, Lupin would view it as, if you killed Yaxley, it is a win for the greater good.
Yeah.
Because you are doing actual damage to the bad side. Mm-hmm. I think Umbridge, while she is, like, one of the most deplorable characters in this entire series, like, she falls more so under the realm of collateral damage, or, like, not that she's innocent, but, like, in this sense, an innocent, which is why I'm team, you know, push them down the stairs and they get a concussion.
Regardless, I think something a little bit more extensive is needed than what is done here, and we'll get to a practical reason why.
Well, especially since you have the Dementors at bay, you have one witness who you just saved, so, like, she's not gonna do anything, you know what I mean? And so you have no one there. There are so many other things that you could have done. You could have done even a memory charm. Pull a Lockhart and erase their memories.
That's an interesting idea, yeah.
You know, like, get rid of their memories and now they're just, you know, bumbling idiots who can't help or hurt anyone.
That's not a bad idea. Hermione's getting better at it. Mm-hmm. She's had some practice
now.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, not just her parents. She's also done it with some Death Eaters. But you know what she does need to practice a little bit more at? Her own Patronus. She struggles with producing her own Patronus. And Harry has a whole side conversation with Mary being like, it's really very sad. She's so good with everything else, but she just can't seem to get this. It's
so funny, but also, Harry, not the time.
Not the time.
Not the time, bro.
I do enjoy that he's so calm, even around all of the Dementors, that he's just like, you know, I could have the side combo, the side sesh for a little bit, and then, you know.
Can you imagine being Mary being like, what is going on, and why are we making fun of the court stenographer right now?
I would be like Hermione. I'd be like, can you stop right now? Like, let me, like, figure this out. But anyway, she does eventually produce the Patronus, and it is the bright silver otter that floats around the room with Harry's, what I envision as a massive stag at this point. And they bolt down the hallway, charging through, and the Dementors all scatter for any bit of darkness that they can find. And Harry is like, we need to go. Like, everybody here, we need to go. Like, let's go, let's get out of here.
Harry's like, we've already caused chaos. Let's cause more. Let's go, everybody.
Yeah, let's get this done. And Ron emerges at the end of the hallway as they're escaping and says that the Ministry is aware that intruders are in the premises because someone stole something from Umbridge's room that has now left a gaping hole in the door.
Again, Harry, I agree with taking Mad Eye's eye, but also dumb.
Yeah, I don't want to punish Harry for the decisions he's made.
But dumb.
They're not the wisest, but I get it. Like, I totally get it.
Yeah. I mean,
I get it.
Also, can you imagine when Harry bursts out of there and is like, all right, everyone, we need to leave? Because he's actually Runcorn, who has gotten most of these people.
That's true.
He is the reason that most of these people have to go and testify.
I've had a change of heart. Let's
go. Because he even says that to Mary, because she's like, no, you were the one that turned us in. And he's like, I've had a change of heart. Let's go. Yeah. Can you imagine real Runcorn comes in the next day and is like, I'm sorry, I did what exactly?
Oh, Runcorn's going to be in for a world of hurt the next time he shows up. So Harry leads the group into the atrium, telling all of the wandless witches and wizards to attach themselves to those that do have wands.
That's actually really intelligent, Harry. I'll give it to you. Way to go.
So this is peak Harry in a chaos moment excelling, where somehow his innate leadership abilities kick in, and he's like, okay, now I have to shepherd these adult witches and wizards out of this Ministry of Magic, because now he's essentially claimed them as like, I'm responsible for all of these people now because I have inserted myself into this whole thing and put whatever danger they were in, now they're like, multiply that by like 100.
Well, and I mean, like I said earlier, Harry is really good at triage. Like, that's, I think, where he excels, is when everything is blowing up around him. Like, that's what makes Harry's brain click. And he doesn't necessarily do the things that are going to fix it all. He does whatever it is to make the most people possible to survive.
There is a catch, though. Because the Ministry has been alerted to intruders, they kick in their emergency action plan of locking the place down. They begin to seal off all of the fireplaces. And Harry, for the first time, really, utilizes Runcorn's intimidation factor and yells at a fairly loud volume to stop sealing off the fireplaces. We need to get these people out. They have been wrongly accused of being Muggle-Borns. They don't deserve any of this. And obviously the people sealing off the fireplaces, very confused, but are intimidated enough by Runcorn to be like, okay, all right, we'll allow a couple to get through and blah, 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 blah. And what ultimately ends up being most of the Muggle-Borns escaping. The only one left is really Mary. The problem with that being the real Reg Cattermole returns. And here's the thing. Here's the thing that I have with these issues. And I said it when we did the chapter, which was last chapter of them enacting the initial parts of this plan. Harry, Ron, and Hermione, I respect their willingness and ability to think about people, and that's wonderful. However, again, you are in a wartime situation. You're trying to pull off a real high-level secret mission. Yeah. And You're unwilling to take out Umbridge and Yaxley when you have the chance. You're unwilling to do more to Reg Cattermole than just send him to St. Mungo's real quick. Oh, just go to St. Mungo's. Mm-hmm. That'll be fine. That'll take them a while to sort out the bombing.
They're used to pulling off these, like, sting operations at Hogwarts. Like, when they were back in Chamber of Secrets using Polyjuice Potion to be Crabbe and Goyle, you were just trying to take out fellow children.
Right.
And again, it's where it shows, like, their age in these books, that you kind of forget how old they are, and the fact that they're going, wait, guys, we already did this. We already did this impersonating people thing. We know how to do this. And I think that the switch hasn't flipped for them yet to realize that this is different.
Yeah, you just wonder, you could have prevented some of this from happening. Mm-hmm. You could have prevented Reg Cattermole from showing up at a very inopportune time. You could also have prevented the next person who enters this scene from coming in at a very inopportune time, and that is the guy you just stunned in the courtroom returns, and that's Yaxley.
Like I said, you could have pushed him down off his pedestal and he'd have a concussion.
You had to do something more. You had a shot. You had a shot. And you missed it. I liked your memory suggestion.
Yeah,
That's a solid
thank
one.
you.
So, okay, you get Yaxley returning now to the scene, who's like, why are you not sealing off the fireplaces? Seal those off. Stop this. I think Harry actually punches one of the guys that was sealing off the fireplace. It just punches him right in the face. That works. Just does the job. Ron and Mary exit, followed by Harry and Hermione. And then Yaxley also exits. And as they return to the wonderful setting of the bathrooms, Harry grabs Hermione and Ron and disapparates. However, he notices something is wrong. Oh, they ultimately arrive at Grimmauld Place, but Hermione regrips and they disappear again. What will the next chapter bring? Maybe some of Julie's most favorite events in the Harry Potter universe. We will see. But that wraps it up for the non-spoiler section. And we will be back with a probably very short spoiler section. We've talked for a very long time on the non-spoilers. So we'll try to keep it concise and short in the spoiler section, but we will be right back. Before we get to our break sound, I'd like to acknowledge our friend Andy, who helps us produce our intros and our break sounds. If you want to hear more of Andy's work and like Formula One racing, check out the Outlap F1 podcast. It's your one-stop shop for Formula One news, insights, race previews, and reviews. You can find them wherever you listen to podcasts, and they even have a YouTube page. So check out Andy, Cody, John, James, and Deanna, and join them on the Outlap.
Is it time to reimagine your future? The right business skills may make a difference in your career. At Capella University, we offer a relevant education that's designed to focus on what you need to know in the business world. We'll teach professional skills to help you pursue your goals, like business management, strategic planning, and effective communication. And you can apply these skills right away. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
Dobby has no master. Dobby is a free elf.
All right, so we are here with the spoiler section for Chapter 13, the Muggle-Born Registration Commission. Still a very long chapter title. So we have a couple of things, and they're very Dumbledore-centric. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Harry spots what he thinks is Dumbledore, but is actually a picture from Rita Skeeter's book.
Yeah, the one thing that I find very interesting about that is even after Dumbledore's death, Harry keeps trying to find him, to look for the guidance, to look for the help that Dumbledore doesn't actually ever provide, but he is looking for him anywhere possible and constantly finds places that he sees him. When he first sees Dumbledore, quote unquote, in Umbridge's office, he thinks that he sees Dumbledore in a mirror. Again, we talk about the breadcrumbs with J.K. Rowling and the, like, in the mirror, in the mirror, in the mirror. And
Yeah, that's a good catch.
yeah, and so Harry again thinks that he's looking at a mirror to see Dumbledore, and instead sees the cover of the book that happens to have a little bit of sheen to it. So I just think that that's a little bit interesting, that not only do you have Harry still looking for Dumbledore to kind of like show up again, but that we again get the callback of finding Dumbledore in a mirror, a reflective surface, whatever you want to call it. But then also diving further into the book when Harry's going in the book, because, you know, when you're breaking into a ministry official's office, what else should you do besides flip through a book you found? But, you know, there is a picture of a young Dumbledore with another young man that has golden curly hair, who Harry did not recognize, and before he could read the caption is when Pius enters the office. But just another interesting little breadcrumb, because obviously we talk about this more in the next chapter too, but it's Grindelwald.
Yep. Which is hilarious, and again, we will get to it in the next chapter, but there is obviously a visual representation of that same blonde-haired child, teenager, you know, whatever. And Harry, who just saw him in the previous chapter, was like, this seems familiar.
Oh, where did I see this? And I get it, like, you're in a high-stress situation, so, like...
A lot has happened between him seeing the picture and then.
But it's kind of funny that it's, like, literally, you know, not even 12 hours later that Harry sees the two and doesn't make the connection, but... Interesting that also shows up so early. And I feel like that happens a lot specifically in this book with everything with the Horcruxes, is there's so many little breadcrumbs dropped everywhere where all of a sudden you're, especially on the rereads that you're reading and you're like, wait a minute, hold on, no, I know this one, I got it.
Harry is so lost with... And he continues to realize each and every day, especially the month that he was at Grimmauld Place, how much he actually really doesn't know about the mission that has been set onto him.
Well, and I think that's the thing, too, of why Harry kind of keeps looking for Dumbledore, is because all the way back to book 1, it's always Dumbledore has the answers, Dumbledore knows the way, Dumbledore is our guiding light, and... Even when Dumbledore hasn't provided answers, everyone's like, no, but Dumbledore knows what he's doing. He's going to get us there. Albus knows the way. Like, no one doubts Dumbledore's ability in anything. Since he has some of the information, but not all of it, I feel like it's just that desperation of the, like, okay, it'd be really helpful if there could be a sign. A sign? Anyone? And you're just kind of looking for that little wink or a sherbet lemon wrapper, or, you know what I mean? Like, I think he just keeps looking in hopes that since Dumbledore, kind of like J.K. Rowling through this book, just kind of drops breadcrumbs of things, I think he keeps hoping that there's some other breadcrumb trail to follow instead of just the blind leading the blind.
But you know what this blind leading the blind leads to, Julie?
Camping!
It leads to so much of your favorite parts of this book, because...
We've been hearing about this, I think, since I started on the podcast.
So, everybody listening to this podcast right now, we're about to enter a stretch of the 7th book where we finally get to put Julie's thoughts to the test. Does the camping scenes really seem like endless... droning on them in a tent?
There's a lot of camping, Dan.
There is, but as we'll see in the next chapter, she tries to mix in some other stuff with
camping. It's camping.
Okay. Well, unless you have...
Listen, they're camping because they're not at Hogwarts, so there's no classes as filler. So where else can you have filler? Well, we got to hunt for food in the woods.
Very
camping.
True. Do you have anything else for the spoilers, or do you want to get straight to the camping?
That's it.
All right. Julie is excited to get to the camping, so we will end the podcast here. Let us know if you think Umbridge is a pureblood or if she's not. What she's playing at with the Selwyn kind of S design on the locket. Let us know your thoughts to all of these questions, and we will see you guys next week for camping.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Hogwarts, a podcast. If you like what you've heard, please click the subscribe button on your preferred podcasting app and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Hogwarts a Pod.